Rain poured from the heavens like the sky itself was breaking apart. The roads shimmered under the glow of flickering streetlights, and the wind screamed through the trees, bending branches until they cracked. Cars rushed past, their headlights cutting through sheets of water, but one car stood out, parked on the shoulder, its hazard lights blinking desperately. Inside sat a man gripping the steering wheel, his knuckles pale white. His name was Liam Carter, 38 years old, a single dad raising his 7-year-old daughter, Sophie, in a small town on the edge of Melbourne. He had been driving home after picking Sophie up from her friend's birthday party when the storm turned violent. The windshield wipers fought in vain against the torrents of rain, and lightning carved jagged paths across the sky. Sophie was asleep in the back seat, wrapped in her pink blanket, her small chest rising and falling softly. Liam turned to check on her, smiling faintly. He lived for that little girl. She was all he had left after his wife's sudden death 3 years ago. Every day, he promised himself he'd protect her no matter what. But fate had a strange way of testing promises. As he drove slowly through the rain, a flash of movement ahead made him slam the brakes. A car had skidded off the road and crashed into a ditch. Its headlights flickered weakly, half submerged in mud and water. Smoke curled from under the hood. Liam's instincts kicked in immediately. He looked at Sophie in the rearview mirror, still asleep, unaware of the chaos outside. He grabbed his raincoat, opened the door, and stepped into the storm. The wind hit him like a wall. Cold rain drenched him in seconds, but he pushed forward, boots sinking into the wet ground. As he reached the crashed car, he heard muffled cries. "Help! Someone, please!" Liam squinted through the rain. Inside the car was a woman, probably in her early 30s, struggling to open the driver's side door. In the backseat, a little boy, maybe 5 or 6, was crying hysterically, his small hands pressed against the window. Liam pulled hard on the door handle, but it was jammed. "Hang on," he shouted over the roaring wind. He ran to the other side, tried again, nothing. Then he saw smoke thickening under the hood. He grabbed a rock from the ground and smashed the side window. The glass shattered, and the woman gasped as Liam reached in to unlock the door. "Take my hand," he yelled. The woman, trembling and soaked, clutched his hand as he helped her out. She coughed violently, the rain washing blood from a small cut on her forehead. "My son, please, he's stuck," she screamed. Liam ducked back in through the window, the smoke stinging his eyes. The boy was trapped by the seatbelt, which had jammed tight from the impact. "It's okay, buddy," Liam said, trying to keep his voice calm. "You're safe now, I've got you." But the words barely left his mouth before lightning struck nearby, illuminating the scene in a flash of white. The engine hissed and popped. Without thinking, Liam pulled out his pocketknife, cut through the seatbelt, and lifted the boy into his arms. He backed away just as flames licked the car's hood. The moment they reached the roadside, the wreck exploded in a burst of fire that sent sparks into the storm. The woman screamed, covering her mouth, while the little boy buried his face in Liam's soaked jacket. Liam's heart pounded. He knelt beside them, trying to shield the child from the rain. "It's over," he said gently. "You're safe now." The woman looked up at him with tears streaming down her face, mixed with rain, fear, and disbelief. "You saved us," she whispered. Liam shook his head. "Just glad I was here." He ran back to his car, grabbed Sophie's blanket, and wrapped it around the shivering boy. Sophie had woken up now, rubbing her eyes in confusion. "Daddy, what's happening?" she asked softly. "It's okay, sweetheart," Liam said, pulling her close. "We're helping someone." He guided the woman and her son into the car. They were freezing, their clothes clinging to their skin, but at least they were alive. The woman kept thanking him between shaky breaths. I don't even know your name," she stammered. "Liam," he said with a tired smile. "And this is Sophie. I'm Rachel, and this is my son, Eli," she said, hugging her boy tightly. "I don't know how to thank you, Liam. I thought we were going to die." Liam turned on the heater and drove them toward town. The storm showed no signs of stopping. The roads were flooded, and visibility was poor, but he kept one hand on the wheel and the other gripping the steering tightly, focused. Every few minutes, he checked on Sophie and Eli in the mirror. They were both asleep now, heads leaning against each other. When they finally reached town, Liam pulled up outside the small clinic. The power was flickering, but a nurse rushed out with a flashlight. "We've got 2 injured," Liam said quickly, helping Rachel out. She was limping, her leg twisted awkwardly. Hours passed before the doctor came out and told Liam she'd be fine. Some bruises, a sprain, but nothing serious. Eli was unharmed except for a few scratches. When Liam turned to leave, Rachel called out, "Wait. You can't just go. Please, stay." He smiled faintly. "You're safe now. That's all that matters." But Rachel insisted. "At least let me thank you properly. Dinner, once this storm passes." Liam hesitated, then nodded. "All right, dinner." Days later, when the skies cleared and the sun returned, Rachel found herself thinking constantly about the man who had risked his life for her and her son. She had been driving to her parents' house that night, trying to escape a difficult breakup and start over. If Liam hadn't been there, she didn't even want to imagine. When she saw him again, he was picking Sophie up from school, his jacket still worn and old, his hands rough from work. He looked up and smiled, that same calm, kind smile that had comforted her in the storm. She walked over. "You really don't know how to take credit, do you?" she teased softly. He laughed. "Saving people's kind of my thing. Single dads do it every day." They went for coffee, then dinner, and slowly, something began to form, something neither of them expected. Their children became friends instantly. Sophie loved teaching Eli how to draw, and Eli loved making her laugh. Rachel watched them together one evening, realizing that the man who'd saved her life had also somehow healed something in her heart. But the story didn't end there. Months later, another storm rolled in, less fierce, but strong enough to stir memories. The kids were at Rachel's house, building a fort out of blankets, when the power suddenly went out. The thunder shook the windows, and Sophie jumped in fear. Liam reached out, holding her hand. "Hey," he whispered, "you're safe now." Those words again, simple, but powerful. Words that once pulled two strangers from the edge of death and now bound two families together. After that night, Rachel and Liam started seeing each other often. Not because of gratitude or obligation, but because life seemed a little brighter when they were together. Liam found himself laughing more. Rachel felt safer than she had in years. One evening, under a golden sunset, Sophie and Eli were chasing butterflies in the park while Rachel and Liam sat on a bench nearby. "Funny how storms work," Rachel said quietly. "They destroy things, but sometimes they bring people together." Liam nodded. "Yeah, that night, I thought it was the worst storm of my life. Now I think it saved me, too." Rachel smiled, leaning her head on his shoulder. "You risked everything for us. And I'd do it again," he said softly. Years passed. Sophie and Eli grew up like siblings, always together, always laughing. The story of that storm became a family legend, how one act of courage changed everything. Whenever someone asked Liam why he stopped that night, he'd always say the same thing: "Because someone needed help, and I was there." That's all. But Rachel knew there was more to it. That night didn't just save her life, it gave her a new one. And when, one summer evening, Liam finally proposed, with Sophie and Eli cheering in the background, she whispered the same words he'd once said to her in the pouring rain. "You're safe now." The wind rustled the trees softly, the sky turning pink and gold as the sun dipped low. The world was peaceful. Two families, once broken by loss and fear, now stood together, stronger, complete. All because, on one stormy night, a single dad chose to stop his car, step into the rain, and change everything forever.